Preface. Sister Nivedita, whose previous name was Margaret Noble, was of Irish parentage and was born in Dungannon in Tyrone on 28th October 1867. After finishing her education at the Halifax College, she worked in various girls' schools, gaining practical experience of teaching. In 1892, at the age of 25, she opened a school of her own in Wimbledon and settled down to serious work. She was a close student of Pestalozzi and Froebel, and one of the enthusiastic supporters of the new education movement that was then in vogue in London. With her manifold intellectual interests, Margaret had one deep-rooted trouble, namely the growing consciousness of uncertainty and despair with regard to spirituality and religion. It was at this time that Swami Vivekananda reached London with his message of Vedanta. And his words came, as she said, as living waters to men perishing of thirst. She met him first in November 1895. His teachings aroused Margaret's dormant spiritual aspirations and desire to serve humanity unselfishly, and she finally decided to take the plunge through Swami Vivekananda. On the Swami's part, he was very frank in putting forward all possible arguments against her intention to join his mission. On July 29, 1897, he wrote to her, "Let me tell you frankly that I am now convinced that you have a great future in the work for India. What was wanted was not a man, but a woman, a real lioness, to work for the Indians, and especially for the Indian women. India cannot yet produce great women. She must borrow them from other nations. Your education, sincerity, purity, immense love, determination, and above all, the Celtic blood make you just the woman wanted. Yet the difficulties are many. You cannot form any idea of the misery, the superstition, and the slavery that are here. You will be in the midst of a mass of half-naked men and women with quaint ideas of caste and isolation, shunning the white skin through fear or hatred, and hated by them intensely. And on the other hand, you will be looked upon by the white race as a crank, and every one of your movements will be watched with suspicion. And then there is the climate, which is fearfully hot, our winter in most places being like your summer, and in the south it is always blazing hot. Not one European comfort is to be had in the places out of the cities. If, in spite of all this, you dare venture into the work, you are welcome, 100 times welcome." Margaret's earnestness helped her to make a quick decision. She left England at the end of 1897 and reached Calcutta, 28th January 1898. On March 25th, she was initiated into Brahmacharya and given by her guru Vivekananda the name Nivedita, which means the dedicated. After a tour of the Almora and Kashmir regions from May to October with Swami Vivekananda and other devotees, Nivedita returned to Calcutta in November. On November 13th, in the presence of the Holy Mother, Sri Sharada Devi, Ramakrishna's spiritual wife, her school, the Bagh Bazaar, was declared open. But it was only an experimental school, attended with much difficulty, and after a few months she decided to close it and go abroad to find new means and opportunities. In June of 1899, she left with Swami Vivekananda for Europe and America. Everywhere she went, she employed her oration powers on India's behalf and strove to secure financial help for her educational experiment in India. So, with renewed vigor, Nivedita returned to India in 1902. She could not be with Swami Vivekananda for long, for he died that year on 4th of July. The end of personal association did not deter her from carrying on his work. As she said, "He is not dead. He is with us always. So I cannot even grieve. I only want to work." She wrote this to a friend after the Swami's passing. With the help of Christine Greenstidle, an American disciple of Swami Vivekananda, who joined her some months later, she expanded the scope of her schoolwork. From a tiny kindergarten school, it grew into high school, with a separate section for elderly ladies. The schoolwork was gradually entrusted to Christine, and Nivedita took to a wider field of work, that of nation-making. During her tour of Europe and America, she had keenly felt that a country under foreign domination like India was under the British at the time cannot dream of regeneration, the social, political, or cultural. Political freedom was the point to start with, and therefore from 1902 to 1904 she went on extensive lecture tours to different parts of India, urging people to realize the need of the hour and strive to make India free and great. According to her, the three things on which people should lay great emphasis were to have infinite faith in their own reserve power, to gain all-around strength to free themselves from the shackles of the foreign government, and third, to realize that the advent of Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda was to give light to those who walked in darkness. So all her writings and speeches of this period reverberate with these sentiments. By the end of 1904, the political atmosphere in the country, especially in Calcutta, was very disturbing. The declaration of the partition of Bengal in 1905 by Lord Curzon accelerated the political activities of the different patriotic parties. Nivedita experienced the joy of seeing the growth of the new spirit and the dawn of a new India. She was the most fervent and convinced nationalist. Her invaluable writings and speeches inspired young men with a burning passion to lead higher, truer, nobler, and purposeful lives, and her challenge to leaders to rise to the occasion influenced an ever-widening circle of friends as the years passed. Among her eminent contemporaries who became very friendly with her were the statesmen, poets, artists, scientists, historians, and journalists, such as Ramesh Chandra Datta, Jagdish Chandra Bose, Aurobindo Ghosh, Rabindranath Tagore, and many others. Nivedita's work was much handicapped by her failing health. In 1905, she fell seriously ill. Yet in 1906, she visited the famine and flood-stricken parts of East Bengal, as a result of which she suffered from a long spell of malarial fever. These two illnesses and the heavy strain of work that shattered her health, and by the middle of 1907, for 6 months, and also for 6 months in 1910 and 1911, she left for the West. She returned to India in the spring of 1911, and in the Puja holidays went for a change in Darjeeling, where she breathed her last before completing her 44th year. Nivedita's life was short, but full and busy. She lived in the great time of the national revival in India. India was the theme of her writings, and for that she made a deep study of Indian literature, philosophy, mythology, and history. Her mind was therefore amply furnished with rich facts. Combined with her comprehensive mind was a remarkable largeness of heart and deep insight of love. This helped her to interpret in extraordinary and inexplicable manner Indian religion and thought, art and literature, custom and tradition. Her interpretations nourished the imagination and exalted the spirit of the people of this land, generally and lastingly, just as then as now. The impact of her mind and its creation was felt even by her contemporaries, who had reached eminence in their respective fields of work. That is the reason why they paid glowing tributes to her life and work. It will not be out of place to remember today what some of them said of her 4.5 decades of life. Dr. Rash Bahari Ghosh said, "If our sister fell under the spell of India, we in our turn fell under her spell, and her bewitching personality attracted thousands of our young men to her. If the dry bones are beginning to stir, it is because Sister Nivedita breathed the breath of life into them." Narendranath Datta wrote, "She was an Indian through and through, an Indian to the very marrow of her bones. Her nationality was but an external incident. Her soul was Indian." It seemed as if the liberated spirit of some rishi of the olden times had been reincarnated in her. But it surely must be Vivekananda, so that, vitalized by the life of the West, she might once again, amid familiar environments, serve the people of her ancient love. And Rabindranath Tagore wrote, "I have not noticed in any other human being the wonderful power that was hers of absolute dedication. The life which Sister Nivedita gave for us was a very great life. There was no defrauding of us on her part. That is, she gave herself up fully for the service of India. She did not keep anything back for her own use. She was, in fact, a mother of the people. When she uttered the word, 'our people,' the tone of absolute kinship which struck the ear was not heard from any other among us. Whoever has seen what reality there was in her love of the people has surely understood that we, while giving perhaps our time and money, have not been able to give them our heart." The writings and speeches of Nivedita amply prove the truth of all these sentiments.